all this chatter around AI, and AI, the big cloud fighting against each other on AI, we wanted to have a session around just to check if India is taking advantage of the AI revolution. And for that, we have Hemant, partner at Lightspeed. Hemant, thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So we'll get started. So a little bit about yourself, Hemant. You started your career in 2006 as a tech person. So from 2006 to 16, in this 10 years, how was your perception about AI? Did you think that we'd be here at this point?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So it also dates me a little bit. So thank you for asking me that question. I grew up in India. I kind of did my undergrad in Mumbai, went to the US in '03, then stayed there till 2018. And between 3 and 18, I kind of worked for AMD back when GPUs were kind of just about emerging. Nobody saw that GPUs will become such a big wave when we were building at AMD. Then I joined Google Cloud in the very early days, Google X, Google Cloud, where I saw a bunch of new technologies come up. Autonomous driving, which was very AI-driven at the time, and cloud, which had early signs of AI and ML sort of picking up there. Frankly, my undergrad project was something that was called, it was around AI. It was called, we used to use something that was called Stuttgart Neural Networks. This is late 90s, early 2000s. And our job was to then predict traffic flow and congestion rates in Mumbai-Pune highway, which was brand new back then. And if a car stops at point A, how long does it take for that congestion to move back to Mumbai or move up to Pune? And we used to use neural networks for that. So it is, AI is been around for a long time. It has just been in different avatars. So for me, if I sort of look at it from that perspective, part of me feels like, yeah, we have seen this wave come and go. We have seen AI summers and AI winters, and we are going through one summer now. We'll have a winter again, and then the technology will scale beyond that. So I've seen a bunch of these things come and go. It feels like a seminal moment has happened a couple of years back, which is leading to this massive inflection, and we'll talk more about that today. But yeah, it's not a new rodeo for folks like us, and yeah, we've seen this in different shapes and forms in the previous avatar as well.
In your opinion, how soon would you predict a winter in AI?
Again, it's very hard to predict. Look, what causes a winter? Let me pull back and maybe chat a bit about: are we in the middle of a hype, and what does it mean for any of us, both who are investing in this hype and those who are building into the hype? Look, it is hard enough to build a company of any kind in any wave at all, right? The moment you sort of say, I wake up today morning and I say I'm going to start a company, the world is completely against you. Completely against you.
True.
Nobody wants to join your company because who are you? Nobody wants to invest in your company because nobody knows you. There's no brand for you, so no customer cares about what you're building, no matter how much time and effort you spend into building something with as much love as you can. So the deck is completely stacked against you. Once in a while, as an investor, once every 10 to 15 years, you see a wave which is so strong and so seminal and so, up and to the right that everything becomes 10 times easier. You wake up in the morning, you build something, people say, give me this. I want to try it out. My CEO is saying, what is your ML strategy? 10 years ago, nobody cared about that. Customers are looking for you versus you having to push in your solutions into customers. People want to join you because you have a .ai at the end of your company. I'm making a joke out of that, but it actually does matter that you are in the middle of the AI wave, and so on and so forth. So I think hype cycles are dangerous in many ways if you're not really smart about how to tackle it. But if you're able to take advantage of them, they move the industry 5-10 years ahead very quickly. And that is why there is so much capital going into it, so many people, smart people getting into it, so many customers looking for it. 10 to 15, 20 years ago, if you were a CMO and did not have a social media strategy, nothing would happen. 10 years ago, if you didn't have that, you'll get fired, right? 5 to 10 years ago, if you are a CTO of a company, did not have a cloud strategy, you will get fired. Today, if you're a CEO, if you don't have an AI strategy, in 2 years, you may get fired. So these are important things to sort of not forget, that hypes happen for a reason. They are important. If you play it right, it can really push the industry out by 5-10 years ahead of its time. And building against the hype is just 100 times harder. So we like it. We have to play it carefully, but we like it a lot.
Got it. So AI solutions moving the industry 5-10 years ahead, narrowing down on that point. Is that how Lightspeed looks at AI, investing in AI as a thesis? Can you throw some more light on it?
Every investor is different. They are very strong thesis first investors, and they are very strong thesis agnostic investors. Personally, I think having a thesis almost speaks to the hubris that investors might have, that I know where the world is going to head. Our job is to not predict the world. It's the founder's job. Our job is to understand deeply whether a founder, whether he or she is saying is actually, is this person capable of doing it or not? Are they capable as a combination of sheer willpower, capability, and storytelling, really pull the future into the present faster than it would otherwise take? That's what we are supposed to be really good at. So am I thesis-led? Not really. Is Lightspeed thesis-led? It depends on which investor you ask. So what is the thing that we really care about? Technologies come and go. We care about what are you using, how are you using this technology to solve what problem in a unique and fresh way. Today, what AI has allowed us to do, there are only two ways to build big, profitable businesses. And I think of problem spaces in the world in two ways. One is what I call the infinite scale problem, and the other one is an infinite scope problem. An infinite scale problem does not change the nature and shape of the problem over generations. My shoes have looked pretty much the same thousands of years back. The things I'm wearing, they're shaped the same way. People have worn these kind of jackets for maybe 1,000+ years. They didn't look exactly this. But this is as long as human species looks and is shaped this way, and they're gonna look for clothing, these clothing are gonna look the same way. It's an infinite scale problem. It'll never end till the human species ends. An infinite scope problem is when you get into a problem space and there are new ways to solve this, new problems crop up and so on and so forth. Why is it that in software, hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent to solve security? Why are we less secure? Because the problem changes shape. New security threat vectors come in, and then now you gotta go displace your old $10 billion company to build a new $10 billion company. Developer tooling, there have been hundreds before, and there'll be hundreds in the future. Why is developer problem not getting solved? Because developers change shape, they change behavior. So it's an infinite scope problem. Software happens to be a category which is a very nice combination of infinite scale, because it's software, and infinite scope, because it's cyclical in nature. So what I think is gonna happen is when a new platform or a new technology comes in, behaviors start to shift. What are examples of that? A new platform could be from non-desktop to desktop. Why? Because CPUs became miniaturized enough so you could have a computer in your house under your desk. And that technology shift allowed a new behavior to emerge. Right? Instead of going out and playing, you sit on your thing and then you play a game. So that's one behavior shift that happened because technology worked out a certain way. In some other cases, behavior changes and then new companies serve that behavior. For example, younger people want more real-time, fun UI interfaces. Slack is becoming a new way of doing work now. So a bunch of companies, one of our companies, Tina, is building customer support and success on Slack. It is not happening on email because people don't go on email. Why? I don't know. But new people, younger people don't want that. So the behavior has shifted, and now companies are going to be built to solve that behavior. With AI, I don't think of it as a platform shift as much as a technological shift. The way that GPS miniaturization allowed you to have an Uber in your phone, without that, a Google Map Uber would not work. The way a capacitive screen allows you to have pinch and zoom moments, that behavior did not exist, but technology allowed that behavior to exist and then get inserted and get disseminated. Now AI is at a point as a technology where you can actually change behaviors a certain way. And when you change behaviors a certain way, a lot of the old behaviors that companies have been built around to service go away. And that's why perplexity is now almost at a point where people are starting to say, would it be a threat for Google? I mean, who imagined that, right? I haven't done a Google search in, I don't know, months now. Frankly, this is a fact. I'm surprised by it every single day. But I do perplexity all the time. And I did not expect that to happen. Why? Because now I'm looking for answers directly versus going through a lot of links and then figuring out which one is the right answer for me and collating it in my own head. So these behaviors, because technology is at a point where it can actually give you the answer, you can then expect the behavior to shift, and then it is the founder's job to sort of understand that shift that is happening, how broad and how deep is it, to whom it matters more, and what problems can you solve with this new behavior that is emerging. So that's what's happening in the world. That's what's interesting us.
Got it. I totally did not expect the publicity part. But yeah, so the entire reason technology advances is one because there are tech giants like OpenAI or AWS helping us with the infra part. But then the solutions advance because there are a lot of startups coming in, a lot of solutions coming in. And you, as Lightspeed, must have also seen a lot of startups pitching AI to you. How many of these, or do wrapper solutions form the majority, or do proprietary AI solutions form the majority? Just curious about it.
Rappers versus
Proprietary, built by your own.
pure play. Okay.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, again, I think there is a hidden. I think it's the wrong question to ask. Okay. Right? I think there is a hidden assumption underneath this question, which implies that a pure play company might be a superior company in some way. A wrapper company may not be a superior company in some way. I don't think that is true. I really don't think that is true. So most companies, there are different ways to build different kind of companies. I'll give you an example from my personal life, right? So pure play versus a wrapper. When I was at AMD, we were building this thing called a dual core CPU. What does it mean? You have a single wafer, single die, and you put two cores into that are actually sitting on the same die. And we spent 2 years of engineering, like efforts and lots of failures because nobody had built that technology before, because we thought we'll be pure plays dual core. We will actually build two cores, stick it together on a single die, go fabricate it in TSMC somewhere where there's no technology to fabricate it, and we'll go market it as, hey, now you have two cores in a single chip instead of one core in a single chip, which used to be the case. Intel did something much smarter. They just took two single cores that they had built, they put it together, and they joined them with something that is called a hyperconnect. And when you look at the number of CPUs on your Windows or Linux boxes, you would see two CPUs. But they're not pure play two CPUs. It's not a dual core pure play. It's just two single cores stuck together. It's like car with two engine versus a dual engine. So, and they came into the market faster than us, about a year before we came in. And when we launched our dual core, nobody cared because they're already used to dual cores because Intel had done a fake dual core, not a pure play. It was a wrapper dual core. Same thing happened with quad core. We were like, we'll do a four cores in a single die. And it took another 2 years to do that. And Intel said, well, I've now built a single dual core. By the time AMD, you launched yours, I built my real dual core. I'll stick two dual cores together and make it a quad core. And we're saying we're going to do a four cores in a single die. We again lost that game. So I don't think pure play versus wrapper, whatever wrapper means, is enough to build a big company. There are big companies built both ways, right? Product and superior technology often does not mean you have a right to win in the market. Branding, marketing, sales matter so much. Technology does not build a company. IP does not build a company. It's a combination of many, many things that come together to build a company. So I think the people who understand this really deeply, absorb this really deeply, and then don't worry about, is it pure play, is it wrapper, are the ones that are going to win. And those who worry about it and don't know how to play the wrapper game, because you can play the wrapper game. You can build a very quick wrapper, fast wrapper, and there are many companies that have a $10, $20, $30 million revenue today. There are essentially wrappers on OpenAI, LoRa, or whatever else, on video, text, audio. They have just scaled up to 30, 40 million. Now what will they do? If they play their cards right, they know this is going to get disrupted. They're going to raise a ton of money because of that. And then they're going to build a real LLM on their own. And then they will get differentiated on that front. So they'll raise more then, and then continue to grow. So you have to play the game right? If you play the game right, it would not matter over time whether you were a wrapper 10 years ago versus you were a pure play 10 years ago.
Got it. And I think the last question that we had from the community is, legacy is now adopting AI. Legacy solutions, traditional solutions like a help desk is now adopting to AI. But the timeline to build a feature is always the same. You take maybe a quarter to ideate the feature, another quarter to build the feature. And it takes the same amount of time for a startup to build the same solution, AI first, and both of them have equal chances of going to market at the same time. Do you think Indian startups can take advantage of this part?
So your question is, legacy companies are building a certain way, they are adding AI features to their products, and then there's somebody who's building something ground up differently, and it will take the same amount of time for both companies. Who has an advantage? Let's look at the history, okay? And then we'll work through this together on the stage. Let's look at the history of internet. Let's look at the history of mobile and a couple of other waves, crypto and now AI. I think Elad Gil has done a really good study of this. Look, if you look at the internet wave, I think it's been quite split. There's the Netflixes, the Amazons, the Google, and so on. But there's also the IBM that is still relevant. There is the data, there is the Oracle, there is the Microsoft and Adobe and Intuit and dozens of others, very large market cap companies that are much larger today than they were before the internet happened. It's not like they shrunk. They actually grew 5, 10, 15x. Microsoft is now one of the largest companies in the world. It was very small back then. So I think the game there was kind of split incumbent and newcomers. Mobile, it has been primarily incumbents. Primarily, there's a Facebook here or something else, Snapchat somewhere else, but it's primarily been incumbents. Crypto is different because it was regulated. No incumbent really wanted to take the risk to go into crypto, so it's been all newcomers. AI, first wave of AI actually, frankly, is mostly gone to the incumbents, the AMDs, the Intels, the NVIDIAs, the Google Clouds, and so on and so forth, right? So actually, I forgot about the cloud wave. Cloud wave is also, I think, mostly incumbents. There are a few Snowflake and Databricks-like stories, but the big ones are actually the incumbents. So I think the first wave of AI actually it has gone to the incumbent. You have to give it to them. They have moved fast. They have built. They have distribution advantage. They have brand advantage. They're not slowed down. They're not sleeping at the wheel, and they are winning. But what is interesting for newcomers is that this behavior shift is really critical to understand. If you understand where behaviors are actually going, you can then build a perplexity to service that behavior that Google wouldn't be able to as well from the ground up. And then $1 trillion market comes up for disruption for you. $1 trillion market, because this is the market that the incumbents have created. Right? It comes up for disruption for you. Adobe bought one of our companies, Rephrase.ai. They were trying to do a bunch of video AI on their own, and it felt like it was very hard. It'll take them too long to do it. So they acquired a company from India. Adobe US bought a company in India, from India, took them to the US to build that technology, video generative AI. So there is opportunity here. If you can build something that is tuned into the new behavior that the consumers are asking for, and then you have a shot. But is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. I think it is going to be very, very tough. So the bar is very, very high. What do we look for? We don't look for incremental changes. We don't look for incremental changes. We look for 10x changes. If your solution is taking a 10-step process and making it done in 0 or 1 step, that is interesting, right? $10 cost to 10 cents, $1, that is interesting. And if AI is playing a role there, I think you have a shot.
Got it. I think those are all the questions that we've had from the community so far. We'll open the floor to Q&A. We'll take a few questions. Do you have any questions for Hemant?
Hi, Hemant. So, like you mentioned, AI has been around for ages. You yourself experimented with it back in the 90s, where people were still using it for real-life applications and deriving value. What do you see is the real change now that everybody's jumping on the bandwagon and wanting to do it, despite it having been around and being useful for, I guess, a couple of decades now?
Yeah, I mean, these changes are very hard to see over a 5, 10-year ranges, but they are much easier to see on a 50 to 100-year scale. And this is true for a bunch of other technologies that have taken a long time to get to where they are, right? Space is one example of that. People have been, sending stuff up to space, but it was not as good as what it is today. So I do think when 30, 40, 50 years of research goes into the ground, incremental changes and improvements at one point reach critical mass, that you reach a state where suddenly something starts to look like magic to people that are not from the industry. It does not mean it is magic. It does not mean people who are in the industry think of it as magic, but it does mean that people who are not from the industry suddenly feel like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? And when that starts to happen, a bunch of the network effect starts to pick up. A ChatGPT moment is a lot more likely when ChatGPT actually gives you the answer you're looking for immediately, and you have that, oh my God, I did not expect this. Okay? So I think that is what has happened more than anything else. If you ask a researcher, it's an incremental shift that has happened for, if you're in the GAN and CNN world, like this is an incremental shift. Transformer models were created in 2017 and nobody cared, frankly. So, but then incremental shifts add up and then boom.
Hi, Evan. So, is the Indian industry ready for the AI adoption the way it is happening? Okay, we are talking about B2C is okay, but about the B2B, you said about something which can be produced in $10, somebody can make it 10 cents. So, if there are a lot of solutions like that, but there is a trust factor or what you can say adoption rate. These are the things which we see. We are also into B2B procurement space, and we have been interacting with the CEOs, CFOs. But when we see, yes, it is one of their criteria, but not the primary criteria which they are looking at, to what extent they can adopt the things.
Yeah, so we invested in a company in India called Sarvam.ai, and then their strategy is to service Indian clients. So I can maybe give you some anecdotal evidence of what's going on there. I do think Indian industry is different from, let's say, the Western industries, where there's a CIO board charter, and they're like, hey, what is your AI plan? I think that some of that is happening now for Sarvam, where they're being pulled into a lot of board conversations and saying, can you drive our AI strategy in the next year or so? But it's few and far between. What I think Indian industry is really good at, they are very value discerning. Right? If you're very value discerning and they're very consulting heavy. So the right way to get to the Indian clientele is not build a developer app and then launch it and throw code over the fence and expect them to read documentation and get it done and plug it into their in internal environments and boom, one day you are AI native. The right way to address the Indian client is a lot more top down, a lot more board driven, and very consultative. You like 10 years ago we had a digital transformation. 10 years ago, we had a cloud transformation that a bunch of these consulting firms led, and they use a bunch of Databricks, Snowflake, whatever else in the background, right? RPA companies kind of grew 1 to 2 to 3 million for 4 or 5 years, and then suddenly one day they were 10, and then 70, and then 400. UiPath is an example of that. Slow growth in the beginning because digital transformations were kind of slow and not happening for the majority of the world. And suddenly one day everybody was like, what is my digital transformation, cloud transformation strategy? India will probably take a bit of that flavor, where first couple of years, it'll be a lot of market education, a lot of hand-holding, and one day the thing will click, and then a lot of the transformation will happen en masse across a lot of the industrial players.
So ultimately, it is boils down to the big four, right? It is because they have the access to the
I'm not saying it's going to be consulting. I'm saying it'll be whatever product you are building will have a consulting angle, will have a hand-holding and professional services angle.
Yeah, but I see that we approach the board members or the CEOs. So the way it is taken up by these big four, because mostly they are the ones who will be part of their as a consulting or as part of their auditors or any kind of things. The moment a big four consulting members, any of them, if they suggest this is something which you can use, it's going very fast than a normal guy who is approaching the CEO or CFO.
Yeah, look, that is, I mean, it's an example of trust deficit in the Indian ecosystem, right? So a company that wants to win this will have to build a very high degree of trust with the decision makers, which is one of the focus areas for Sarvam today. So without that, I think it is hard. In the US, people do take a lot of risk with startups because they are startups themselves. In India, startups will do it. If you want to go target the startups, you can do it. But can you build a $200, $300, $400 million company purely servicing the startups? That is not true. You're going to go to the conglomerates, the big companies, the governments. And for that, you need to build a different kind of a team and organization, which you have to be aware of.
Thank you.
I think we have a question.
Hey, Hemant.
Hi.
With the advent of .NET, I think the world got connected. And with mobile, I think the world got really closer. And also thanks to mobile, the overall development of software has been reduced. Like as of now, one guy can build the entire full stack. This is not possible like 20 years ago. Now, there are like, at this point, we were building apps left, right, and center. There's an app for the same vendor, A, vendor B, and eventually the aggregation happened. And then a bunch of services got into one single app. So what do you think is going to happen to AI? Whether this is going to be a wrapper in future, or is this going to be a pure play?
What do you mean by AI being a wrapper? Are we asking that will software become commoditized?
Yeah, I mean, for example, we have sales enablement, which reduces the amount of time for SDRs to reduce the time. And also, there are a couple of other AI services that would reduce or replace humans. So, I mean, how do we generalize this? Like, if there are two companies trying to do exact same work, competitors, now, are they going to share AI as APIs, or are they going to build AI as silos?
I'm not sure if I fully understood the question though, but if you're asking if AI is going to displace people from doing what they're doing, is that what you're asking?
I mean, how would this entire ecosystem grow into? Like, will this silo out and there is a LLM for every single company, or
see.
there's going to be one, maybe
see.
something like
Okay, helpful. Okay, yeah, thanks for the context. So I do think the world. So maybe a few zoom out responses before I dig into your question. I do think if AI works out the way it is working out today, right? I do think, look, whatever gets easy to build gets commoditized and priced out completely. That is a zero-time market. So building software alone is over time, you can argue that it would not be as valuable as it used to be. It already is a lot less valuable today. It was a lot more valuable in 90s and 80s. Today it's not, which is why you have 70 million developers. How many of them are really good? Nobody knows. So I do think software will get commoditized. So just building software will get super easy, which means building software is kind of table stakes. Nobody's going to pay for that. Quality will matter, right? And specificity will matter. How reliable, how specific to my needs is your software? Because then you can build, like I said, the infinite scope problem. Every software is a fractal. You kind of, hey, solve Hemant's problem. Now I have 10 problems in my financial advisory thing. Then there'll be a tax thing. There'll be something else. Then there'll be something for somebody else in my family. So it's an infinite fractal problem. A single software cannot do all this because it does not really understand me fully, right? Nobody has time for me. I'm not gonna be a $1 billion customer for anybody. So, but then when software becomes fully commodity, you can build infinite software at infinite scale. You can build infinite software for me. So the world eventually would be where my imagination, this is my imagination running a bit wild, you will have infinite agents in the world. Infinite agents. There'll be personal agents for me, one for doing my taxes, who will be plugged into my email and figure out all my, all my tax documents, my whatever is coming, wherever, Slack, WhatsApp, wherever. I'll have a software agent for this communication and tracking, and it'll be agent for, I don't know, booking stuff. Could be a single agent for cars, single agent for groceries, single for hotels, one for who knows what, right? So the world will have, I will have dozens and dozens, if not more, of agents. Like I have dozens of apps. The agents will take care of different things for me, but specific to my need, right? That world, I think, is going to happen. Now, what does that mean? The future of phone is going to look different. I'm not going to have a Namayatri and Uber and an Ola or a Grab for Gojek for when I travel to Singapore. I'm not going to have that. I'm going to have a travel agent, pun intended. And this person will plug into all the other things in the background. So what does it mean? The future of app would look different. The phone would look different. I would still have Netflix to watch movies, but why do I need to play, 5 different apps in the morning to get a taxi? I wouldn't need that. I'll just tell my agent, I need to go from here to there. You figure it out. If money is an issue, give them a limit. If time ETA is the issue, then you give them that, and they'll pay more to get the lowest amount of ETA. So that's what I think is going to happen. Same for booking your flights and hotels and whatnot. What would that mean? APIs will look different. You're not going to have software talking to each other. You're going to have agents talking to each other, which means both the agents will need to change, and things that they talk to will need to change. Almost like you're building highways, and you're building motorcycles, but highways have no motorcycle lanes. You're going to have to build motorcycle lanes on the other side. So the websites that talk to agents will have to have a sandbox environment where agents can go play around, get an identity, plug in your credit card, do some back and forth, cancel stuff. So that's where the world is going to go ahead. So I do think there'll be a lot of models for individuals, individual companies, employees within companies, agents that are actually employees. We're seeing that already happening, and so on.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
Hi, one last question. Hi, Hemant. It was a nice insight about the AI with respect to Indian context as well as what is happening in the industry. The struggle, looking for some kind of insight or enlightenment. The struggle we are seeing is when we come up with a solution for our cloud cost optimizations, And when we are using AI on one trained model, and there is something else that is coming up, which is doing much better performance and giving a cost effectiveness. And this is like happening the cycle is happening very quickly over and over again. So what do you see, what kind of strategic way that you think these AI, like you said, it's a hype cycle is going on. There is a still lot of, we do not see accuracy, security, reliability, performance. These are some of the areas still there is a lot more work. These LLMs and the libraries and the big companies are also going through. And we realize there is a lot of changes are about to come. But do you think, is it the time to invest and bring our own security models or our own the framework to build, take care of these aspects at this point of time?
I think it's a very good question. It'll take a lot longer to answer. I don't know how much time we've got. A couple of minutes?
Just keeping in mind everybody's time, the session's time is up. So if you're available, we can network outside.
Yeah, I can chat with you outside. It's a good question, though.
Yeah. But thank you so much for coming on board, Hemant. It was a really nice session. And thank you all for being such a great audience.
Thank you. Thank you.